Qualities of Leadership. And he was Dennis was very generous in purchasing the book for all of us to read. And so I hope many of you had an opportunity to read the section 1, because I thought it was very good and gives us a good foundation. So Art, I know that you wanted to prepare for our meeting, so you asked us to send you some questions. And so Art, we have the questions here for you, and you can just go through it at your pace.
Sure, I'm ready for the first one. So some of the questions, this is not really a question, it's more philosophical. I'll only take a moment on it, but I want to move quickly for a few minutes in order to get to some more critical questions later on. So in conversation with Dennis this morning, reminds me on this first point we have on the screen that we need to spend part of our day learning. But it's more than learning, it's how what we learn can help us take action. So it's fine to think, learn, develop our minds, but in the end, what are the results? What steps are we taking? What effort are we making to actually implement these ideas we've got? So with that thought in mind, I'd like to move on to the next slide, Lolani, and just be philosophical again for a moment.
Okay, hold on, Art, sorry.
Where to go?
I'm going.
Okay. And so while we're getting it set up here, there's a classic story. I'll apologize if you heard it before, but of two lumberjacks, one an old man, one a very young man, powerful, moving quickly. And the young man with an attitude decided to challenge the old man who's getting ready for retirement. Who could chop down the most trees in one day? And, let's hold on to that for a moment. What motivates people? How do we convert what we learn into action? One way to do it is competition. So I'm going to suggest in this moment that whatever you're working on, whatever you're trying to get better at, more than just what you learn, but actually doing something about it in order to become more successful in our business, who might you challenge to competition? Someone who's a little better than you are, that stretches you. Competition brings out the best in people. It raises the energy, it focuses your mind. I come back to my story, therefore, of the two lumberjacks. And the young man challenges the old man, who can chop down the trees in one day, how many to win. And they had a certain distance between the two of them, and they began the competition. During the day, the young man, once in a while, will look at the distance to see how the old man was doing. I noticed a few times during the day, he was just sitting there, like doing nothing. When the day was over, they counted how many trees, and the old man won. How could that be? The young man said to the old man. I looked at you once in a while. You were just sitting there like doing nothing. And the old man said, nope, I was sharpening my axe. How much time do we spend, no matter what our age, no matter how old we are, to sharpen our axe? What can we learn each day that makes us better? But more than learning, to take what we learn and challenge someone to compete, someone better than we are, to bring out the best in us. So with that thought in mind, Lolani, I'm ready for the next slide. Now, someone's asking me about the position we have in the family. And I want to then take this thought, ask yourself personally, what position were you in your family? Were you the older one who was given responsibility or maybe got more attention? Were the younger one who made, this example, I am so aware of my own life and my 4 children who were paranoid with the first child. He became very sensitive, maybe oversensitive at times. The second we weren't as worried about, and she became a little more independent. The third one we worried about less, and she developed a lot of her talents. And last one we just didn't pay attention to, and he went off with a great deal of sense of freedom and did whatever he wanted to, which I'm not going to get into right now. So with those thoughts in mind, think about yourself and what position you are in your family, but then let's apply that to our family. When you come to work each day, we are family. We focus on morale and how we help each other. And are you a senior person in your family, in the office? But you're a mentor to others. Take leadership. Are you the last one at the bottom of the totem pole who needs help? And don't be afraid to ask for help, to turn to someone else for guidance. I'd like to mention, by the way, how many of you know John Wooden, the great basketball coach maybe the greatest coach ever in basketball. And yet, do you know, and I can send you a document, Milani, you can hand it to people. It's part of my next book coming up. That maybe, I have to say this as gently as possible, John Wooden may not have been the great wizard of Westwood that we thought he was. John Wooden couldn't pick up the phone and make a call to get an appointment to recruit a player. He admitted he was reluctant to confront rejection, and he didn't do it. And he didn't have any success until he hired a young man, and I give you the name later in the document, who loved rejection, loved making the calls, loved going out recruiting, and he recruited all these great players of UCLA, including Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they won 10 championships in 12 years. They won 7 in a row. There's a book written by a man who said, if this person that John Wooden had recruited, if that had not happened, no one would know John Wooden today. Who's out recruiting? Who's the man behind the curtain? And we have to have that within ourselves, or turn to someone and be willing to ask someone to help us. With those thoughts in mind, on to the next slide. Now, we're talking about the role of emotional intelligence. And we all know today, in fact, there's been labeled 7 different types of intelligence. We have the normal IQ intelligence, but they've identified 6 others. One of them, just to give you an example, has to do with the genius of music. Imagine a classroom, all these children, and one child is challenged mentally, whatever that might imply. But one night he wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning, he's got a song in his head, and he's very good on the piano, and he knows how to write notes. He's 13 years old. He's failing every class. He's criticized and bullied for his lack of academic ability. And he puts that song down. He writes it. He plays it at 3 in the morning. He hands it over to someone and becomes famous forever on one song and wealthy. That's a unique kind of intelligence. So let's focus on emotional intelligence. And personally, for me to explain it from my viewpoint requires coming to the first major part of my book that so many of you read, and I rather refer to it as relationship intelligence. So let me try something for a strange, contrasting thought, but on the exact same point. I'm sure you're familiar with Pavlov's dog. Dr. Pavlov, a Russian scientist over 100 years ago, was able, and I don't want to discuss the unpleasant details of this, but he was able to determine that when he fed a dog, and I'm assuming someone fed the dog, because I'm not hearing any barking right now. Is that true, Dennis? Okay.
It is true, but so.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, I just want to thank Dennis and his lovely wife, Rose, to come and visit Catalina and I. We had a great game of gin rummy, and Dennis is getting really good at gin rummy. And we're looking forward to the next competition. So back to our
timeout. Can you tell him I did not come in 5th in the card game?
You did not. Of the 4 of us.
Okay, there were only 4 of us. I did not come in 5th. Okay, I want to make sure you guys understand that.
That's right. Absolutely. We're looking for the next competition. Getting better every day and taking action. Sharing thoughts. Back to work, you and I. Dr. Pavlov. So he determined that when he rang a bell, you're familiar, you know the story, when he rang a bell and fed the dog at the same time, the dog began to associate the bell and the food. And then later on, as the dog was conditioned to hear the bell ring at the same time as being fed, Dr. Pavlov was able to ring the bell before the food arrived, and the dog would automatically salivate, knowing the connection between the bell and the food. Here's the phenomenon. I want every one of you to become bell ringers. I want every one of you to develop the relationship intelligence. I'm saying more than emotional, how you connect with people emotionally in developing great relationships. That's the intelligence, is to learn how that everyone's mind, they've got at least one bell. And your ability to be able to have a relationship with someone that allows you to understand what their purpose in life is, what their agenda is, what they're trying to accomplish. To find that bell in their mind. And if you can ring that bell, they're going to salivate. They're going to feel comfortable with you, trust you, respect you. They're going to answer your questions. They're going to be receptive to your suggestions. They're going to listen to you, overcome their concerns so they feel ready to make a decision with you. I'll leave it to you. Emotional intelligence, relationship intelligence, and learning how to ring someone's bell. Next one. I'm ready, Lilani. Okay. Now, interesting question about Sheryl Sandberg. And this is a question asked of me, and I would recommend it'd be worthwhile if every one of you were to Google later on today the Los Angeles Times a few days ago about Sheryl Sandberg stepping down from her position. So let me get a little granular on this one, because it's a great exercise for Dennis and Lilani in their own leadership, as well as every one of us in the leadership of ourselves, our own personal leadership. So 14 years ago, Sheryl became the key executive with Zuckerberg to run Facebook. Now, she now is moving on, and part of what she wants to accomplish is philanthropic. So I'm going to ask you a question. When is enough enough? I'm going to suggest there are 3 mountains in our lives, and you see the 3 peaks in the front of my book. And the first peak is climbing your mountain, succeeding. How many people you know in your life look at the first mountain and say, yes, yes, I want to climb that mountain. I want to make it on my own, become financially independent. I want to come into Berkshire Hathaway and succeed on my own and gain my own financial freedom, my own emotional freedom and independence. And they approach the mountain, but it's scary. How many people walk away? Give up, find a set salary job to protect themselves. The mountain's too scary. Other people will begin to climb. Is it true that 70% of new people in our business leave, resign, quit, give up without having even made a single transaction? And what percentage have reached your seniority? So many we watch drop along the way. They begin climbing the mountain and it's just too much. They fall and never try again. Some people, this is interesting, will climb the mountain, get to a certain level, a plateau, and say, whoa, fear of heights. I'm afraid to become any more successful. I might then lose what I've got. If I try any more, I might fall down. I think I'm going to stay right here. Maybe I can find a guru in a cave someplace at this plateau and just spend my time philosophizing. And then there are those who climb the mountain and become financially independent. How much money did Jeff Bezos' yacht cost? How many people stay in the first mountain? Because it's never enough. And I therefore congratulate Sheryl. But one of the reasons why she's resigning from Facebook is because she's climbed the first mountain. How much, when is enough of money you make, or notoriety, or fame, of what you've accomplished? And when you therefore decide it's enough, you go down into the valley between the mountain you've climbed and the second mountain. Let me back up one notch. The reason why we climb the first mountain, the reason why we succeed is more than the satisfaction we gain for what we've accomplished, but to see more clearly in the distance a higher mountain, a greater challenge, a more substantial, significant adventure. And those are my 3 peaks on the front of the book. The second mountain. We go down the valley, having achieved the first objective, climb the first mountain, and in that valley, we reevaluate our values, what's important to us. And in Revelation, we experience a rebirth of our purpose. And that, I believe, is what she's doing. We congratulate her for taking on the second mountain, and that's being philanthropic. Now, I want to make sure I got some exact words. So, it's more a matter, not so much of where you are in life right now, but where you want to go, of how to get better. One of our major themes with Dennis today and Lilani. So let's back up a notch. Zuckerberg, the great founder of Facebook, what an accomplishment. He was only 23 years old when he started the company. I'm quoting him. I barely knew anything about running a business. Sheryl architected, I like that word, architected our ad business. I remember very well 14 years ago when Facebook went public. The question is it going to be worth anything? Is it worth buying this stock? Because they weren't making any money. What they had was all these people who were enthralled with Facebook. There were millions of people joining Facebook every day. But where's the money? The only way to make money, they felt, was in advertising, and no one knew how to bring advertising to Facebook to make it profitable. Only one person figured it out, and that was Cheryl. She did it. She converted a business of popularity with no profit into the wealthiest company maybe in the entire world today. So he also, Zuckerberg is acknowledging more than creating this. She hired, I'm quoting him now word for word, she hired great people. She forged our management culture. Wow, what a great thought. Every one of us being responsible. More than Dennis and Leilani, creating a culture that's ideal is that every one of us have a responsibility to some degree and how we contribute to our culture to make it better. That's a question later on. I'll get in more detail. She taught us how to run a business. I'm quoting him again. Now, with those thoughts in mind, I want to do a quick review. This applies to all of us, maybe most of all Dennis. A company starting from scratch like Facebook and where they are today goes through three primary stages. The first is establishment. You begin the company. And in that first time period, you are losing money. You're investing money to succeed in the future, and your expenses exceed income, and therefore it's a net loss. You then move on to the second stage. The second stage is expansion. Now you're scoring, you're winning, but you're getting the return on the investment, and now your profits exceed expenses, as with Facebook. But then there's a third stage of the company. The word for the third stage, we have establishment, then expansion. The third is consolidation. This is where we find ourselves in a competitive environment. People looking at us and say, whoa, look how much money this company's making. Let's kind of get into their market. Let's get our share. Let's think of how to get better. And a lot of companies who have been very successful then go bankrupt because they didn't continue to grow to deal with the competition coming in. This is a time of consolidation. We're consolidating. And I'm saying to you that Cheryl was very good at helping Facebook transition from establishing to expansion. She's an expansion person. She's a person who has a great profit. But she's not a person of protection. She's not a consolidation person. It's not what turns her on. It's not her purpose. So with those thoughts in mind, I congratulate Cheryl. And anybody wants to call and discuss in more detail, I am ready. We're moving on to the next slide. And by the way, someone's going to have to help me, Leilani, of how much time I have left so I can pace myself properly. Leilani, how much time do I have left?
You have 15 minutes left.
15. Okay, good.
Let me get this back on track here.
And here's our next topic coming up.
Hold on.
Next slide is coming up.
Yeah.
And this is a question that now.
Wait, let me see if there's.
Okay. So we're back to, there's one in between.
Okay,
next one. There we are. Okay, now I have to be very careful answering this question because my 15 minutes can go very quickly of how I originally was in a conflict when I was going into college, before college. I was planning on going into theology. And Leilani, do you know anyone who ever had a career in religion? And so that was my plan originally as your husband. But then I also had a conflict. I wanted to make money, pay the bills, be able to take care of family. I was hoping to have in the future, resulting with 4 children. And so I went from planning on going into the ministry to then becoming an accountant, which my family was heavily into. So I started out in accounting. I got bored very quickly. I decided to become a social worker, began my graduate degree in sociology, and quickly realized that, well, the income was great to start off with. I couldn't see myself enjoying the affluence I felt I wanted for my family. So I therefore said, where's the money? I'm 21 years old, finishing college, and I asked myself the same question every one of you asked that has brought you into real estate. Where's the money? And people said, you want to make money quickly? Well, have to become a doctor or a lawyer or pass the bar or whatever, you go into selling. If you can learn how to, and I'm going to go back a notch, one of the most important words in Dennis's beliefs and his life is the word discipline. If you can discipline yourself, if you have relationship IQ, that you know how to ring someone's bell and get them to salivate, if you can do that, then you want to go into selling. Without having to go through a lot of education, you can make money quickly. And so that was a decision I made. Well, I will admit to you, after selling for IBM for over 5 years, I wanted to do something of social value. So I decided to teach college. And I did that at Nazarene College in Pasadena. They're now in San Diego. They moved for 4 years. And I missed the war. I missed the competition. I missed being out there on my own every day, selling for IBM like you do right now for Berkshire Hathaway. And I came to a point where I had to wonder, how can I do both at the same time? How can I make money and also feel a sense of social responsibility? To be able to have for society, to help people. More than my college students who would forget what I said when the exams were over, in a bureaucratic environment. And where can I be out in the world with people that use my ideas immediately, like we're talking about today? And so I decided in 1967 to give it a try, and it worked. I was a good salesman. I made calls. I called up. I spoke to Bruce Mulhern in 1969. And he decided to bring me into Berkshire Hathaway. And today, here we are together. How many years have we been together? What's it? 67 to, wow. Is it really 55 years? Whoa, 55 years I've been with you guys. And so I found the balance. Everyone needs to find balance in life between making money and social responsibility. And as Cheryl now moves into philanthropic, I want to share with you, Lilani, I want to send you, maybe I already have, I'm not sure. I want to send you the work I'm doing right now in Sierra Leone, Malawi, Kenya, and Swaziland. And my satisfaction of being there for the least of us. So I'll send you that information and we can talk about that next time. Let's move on to our next question. Now, this is, whoa, what a major topic this is. How can I cover it quickly? Here we go. If you're going to be a parent, if you're going to be a leader of people in our business, if you're going to have your own personal leadership and the relationships you have with people, then you're going to be in a conflict that needs to be resolved by finding balance. Here they are, two, and they're opposite. We all want to be unconditionally loving. We want to be kind to people, always there for them, no matter what happens. We hang in with them. But watch out, because when people begin to realize that you're unconditionally loving, unfortunately, they may take advantage of you. They may reciprocate your kindness with unkindness. At that point, you got to say, enough is enough of unconditional love. I have told people I have failed you because of my love for you. You've got the idea that you can reciprocate my kindness with unkindness. That you can hang up on me if you get frustrated rather than hang in with me when it's for your benefit. That you might use bad language if you get angry. Nope. You go past the line. I have to therefore realize I have failed you in not teaching you. And here's the second half of leadership and parenting. And that's the word consequences. There are repercussions. And therefore, I have my solutions. I offer it to you on this question. You have to tell people sometimes we got to take a sabbatical. We're going to take a break. Call me up when you're ready to have a conversation, adult, mature, functional conversation. You don't need to say you're sorry. I like the movie, Love Story. And the line I hold on to, love is never having to say you're sorry. I mean that. You don't have to say you're sorry, but as Dennis said, it's more than learning how to behave. It's taking action and behaving properly, improving it by stepping up and reciprocating kindness with kindness. So let me kind of wrap on this just for one more moment. Knowing to give unconditional love, knowing to teach consequences, knowing how to balance both at the same time. And if people don't understand that you have a responsibility, you have failed them if they don't realize that unconditional love comes with repercussions for bad behavior. And you're going to hang in with them and you take a sabbatical. And then when they're ready, maybe to have a counselor, a facilitator, a friend, manage the conversation There's three people. The person you're dealing with, you, and someone you might bring in to counsel, to facilitate that conversation. Otherwise, the sabbatical continues. And I will admit to you out loud that Catalina in my life often becomes a person who communicates with that individual from then on. I'm with them. It's just not me talking to them. Catalina's texting, Twittering, or having a conversation. And I'm there for them in that regard. So with those thoughts in mind, I've given you some options. I'm ready for the next one. Lonnie, am I running out of time yet?
You're okay. All right, let me let.
Okay. Now, here we go. Next slide coming up. Dennis, any comment you want to make?
No, you're doing great, Art. You know,
Okay.
I can be your chauffeur someday.
What's that?
I can be your chauffeur someday, do the presentation.
We'll tell that later.
Yes.
At what point do we walk away? Okay, next one. Do you think the majority of people can be themselves in dealing with others in business? No. Too often we cannot be ourselves because who we are and who we're dealing with is not in sync. So what do? Very simple. You perform. Let me give you a hard thought. You were not brought into this business to be yourself. You were brought into this business to be the person you need to be. That applies to every one of us, including Lilani and Dennis. When we come to work each day, we sometimes have to put aside who we are and be the person we need to be. You're on stage. It's time to perform, put on the mask, play the role. So I want to reference to you Machiavelli. To be Machiavellian is a negative term. It means to manipulate people, use people, take advantage of people. Note that's unfair to Machiavelli because that's not what he meant. In my memory of clearly reading and believing in what he taught, I like you to consider the short book, The Prince, that Machiavelli wrote. And the basic thought that I believe Machiavelli was trying to teach was that if people are bad to you, look at what's happening in the world today. Quick thought. Russia convinced Ukraine when the USSR broke up into independent countries. Give us all the nuclear weapons we've been storing in your country, Ukraine. And we in return will promise we will never invade you. And Ukraine gave up all the nuclear weapons to Moscow. And Moscow had no problem making that agreement because they had no intention of fulfilling the agreement. Have you ever met anyone who made deals with you? You fulfill your part, and then they lied to you. So what Machiavelli is telling us is when people are bad to you or you're having difficulty with someone, to be insensitive or rude or disrespectful to you, how do you deal with them? You don't do what they do. You don't be bad like them, but you have to learn how to teach them consequences. So with those thoughts in mind, I'm running out of time. I'm ready for the next one, Milani.
There you go, Art.
Now, how do we create an ideal work environment? We have to bring into balance 4 qualities. We do this in our business, whether it's people in leadership responsibility, like Lilani and Dennis. We bring it to our family if we're a parent. And even as I said earlier, each one of us, even beginning new in the business, have a responsibility to contribute to our culture. So I make a statement. People do not manage people. Culture manages people. Our desire to be accepted by the family we belong to, and we are a family, to feel part of our group, our company, our office, to be part of our family each day requires that we each contribute to an ideal work culture. What is that? So without humility, I'm going to tell you I have the answer. It's a combination of 4 and it connects with my entire book that you read the first part of. The first is love thy neighbor, being kind to people, being there for them, to hold their hand when they're in trouble, to give love and empathy and concern, to care about people. The second is to be a role model to others, to challenge people to get better, to set standards of how we achieve, how to win, how to make the bottom line results score, and take on that responsibility to be a mentor and a guide and a coach to everyone else in the office who needs help. And the third is that we make people feel secure in our environment. secure to talk about their frustrations, to feel safe that there's someone to turn to who will listen to them and be supportive of them. Someone who will sacrifice themselves for the benefit of the group, for the benefit of the culture, for the benefit of our family, to be there for someone when they're in trouble and sacrifice for others, to be supportive of other people and not need any credit in return. That is the third part of the contribution we each make to the ideal culture. And the fourth and last one is that we allow people the freedom to develop their potential, to continue to grow, to be able to, Eleanor Roosevelt, yes, it was a great point, but let's add to that point, giving people the freedom to fail. More than just, as Leilani had in the opening quote from Eleanor, that we study other people's failures so we don't have to make them ourselves. We also have to have the freedom to learn the hard way sometimes. Leilani, I'm ready for the next one. Now, it's a major topic. Let's do this briefly, a reminder of the topic you've read in my book. Everyone is motivated. We all have needs that motivate us. Why are so many people unable to achieve the goals that satisfy their needs? Because too many people are more demotivated by anti-needs than motivated by their needs. So I'm asking you a question. What motivates you? Is it a need for love? But then there might be the anti-need to avoid rejection. Is it the need to achieve something significant or the anti-need to avoid failure? Now, I can go on from there, but let me abbreviate by moving on. So needs motivate us to set and achieve goals that satisfy the needs, and anti-needs demotivate us to avoid our goals. So how can we flip this around is the question. Beautiful question. How can we flip our anti-needs to help us get better? Okay, so let's think about it. People procrastinate. It can be one of the greatest problems in our business. But procrastination is not the problem. It's a defense mechanism we use. It's a protective device to avoid taking on those challenges that scare us, inhibit us. So what we want to do is have our fears, anti-needs and fears are the same, have our fears get us so upset to worry about what's going to happen if we don't take action, causing so much anxiety that it breaks the procrastination. And I know people who have difficulty breaking through procrastination, have difficulty getting out of bed, have difficulty moving until they lie there in bed and start worrying about what's going to happen if they don't start moving. And at a certain point, they get themselves so upset that they don't start functioning. That anxiety breaks the procrastination. Yes, use your fears to motivate you. Use them to cause you to take action and break the procrastination. Are you okay with that, Dennis?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Leilani, next one. Now, what are the steps we can use? By the way, how much time do I have left, Leilani? I'm not paying attention.
5 minutes.
How many?
5 minutes, Art.
5 minutes, okay.
I think we're almost done.
Should I start speaking quickly for the first time? Okay, so answering this question, let me cover it now. We have to move quickly. First, let's try baby steps. So if you haven't watched the movie, or you may have forgotten, or your children haven't seen it, then watch the movie it was Bill Murray, and What About Bob was the title. I love the movie. What About Bob with Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss. And you got to watch it if you forgot it or your children haven't seen it. And it's all about taking baby steps. And there's the word, steps. So in life, we want to take steps in which if we fall, we only trip. Leilani, that's what happened a few days ago. We want to take tiny steps so if we fall, we don't crash, we just trip and catch ourselves. Breaking it down. Okay, so that's the first idea. And the other is the Socratic dialogue. Let me cover it quickly. Socrates never said anything. Socrates never wrote anything. If you want to know what Socrates said, you got to read a boring book, at least the first few pages, go to the library. Plato was Socrates' student. Plato wrote the book, The Republic. It is the dialogues of Socrates. And when you read The Republic by Plato, you discover that Socrates never said anything, he never taught anything, he never wrote anything. All he did was ask questions. And this is my other suggestion, along with taking baby steps. How do we help people move forward? We ask questions. We do that in how we raise children. We do it in how we sell. And we even do it with ourselves, asking ourselves the right question. Why am I having difficulty? What step could I take that wouldn't scare me, that I can at least begin taking action? I leave it to you, a Socratic dialogue, not just with others you're trying to help to take steps, but in self-reflection to inspire yourself. Other words. Next, Lalani, thank you. Now, interesting question. And running out of time, here's my thought. I want you, when it comes to raising children, an associate who may have their own agenda, which is not to anyone else's benefit. I want you to teach sensible selfishness. People, how many people we know who are into, it's all about me, and the end result is when they're in trouble, no one's there for them. They don't get people to cooperate with them. They don't get people to partner with them when they need help, because people get turned off by the fact it's always about them. And so how do we get across to them? And all I'm saying is it's one thing to be selfish, but don't be stupid. Okay, let's rephrase that. It's one thing to be selfish, but let's be sensible. I dropped the word stupid. I'm sorry. Now, therefore, we want to teach sensible selfishness. We want to teach people that if you really want to get ahead in life, often you're going to want to get people on your side to cooperate with you, partner with you. Rather, it's all about you, if I'm reading the question properly. Now, admittedly, we have a number of questions here. So do we need to identify their personality? Yes, very quickly. We need to know what bells to ring in their head, what gets them to salivate. And only then can we perform on stage and turn our personality to that side of ourselves that fits the situation. So if you need to be in control first, and how does that connect with love? And let me just cover quickly from a different angle. How many people we know who appear to be control types, maybe manipulative, but the truth is, I will say to you, very often people who come into our business come in to find freedom, to be independent, to be more than emotionally, but more than financially self-reliant, but emotionally self-reliant. And many people succeed by learning that if you're going to be financially independent, you first have to take control. You got to take control of the process. You got to take control of your own thoughts and emotions, your own mindset. You got to learn how to find the bell and ring and to take control. And then if you learn how to take control of your life, of the process of persuading people to their benefit, then you'll get love and then you'll get the freedom. So, Lalani, and my last moments with you.
Last question.
The last question. Now, you know, I have to admit to you, somehow I decided on this last question and the fact we're down to my last moments with you to leave this for everyone to kind of think about. Who am I? So I'm going to do this as best I can, and this is going to be a major topic. Whoa, how can I cover a huge topic in a moment? Who am I? So let's try how many I can give you. Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. And yet maybe that's impossible if we realize we have many selves. So if it's true, as I believe, we have many selves, then which self are you being true to? We have so many. Let's write a quick list of my closing words with you today. Love. What part of you needs love? Who shares with people, who's kind, sending out birthday cards, Christmas cards. How many people need love? That's you. You're a loving person. That's who you are. That's yourself. But second, who are you? How often do you take control? I mean, sometimes people take control at home, but don't take control at work. You have that side of you. But are you always the control type person you need to be that's appropriate for the situation, to teach consequences, to be persuasive, to score and win? That's who you are. But then there's that other person who, we have to admit it, we can get scared sometimes. We can feel insecure. How people sometimes don't go to a doctor when they should for fear they're going to get bad news. That's a sign of ourselves. To what extent are sometimes the primary self of who you are is someone who can get apprehensive and avoid challenges. But then there's a fourth person you are. You want to be free, independent, do your own thing. Be an eagle flying off mountaintops. Eagles don't fly in flocks. You only find them one at a time, and that's who you are. And then we have 4 selves. And then what would happen if we go into the anti-needs? Are you ever a prisoner of your own fears? And that is a self unto itself. Separate self, separate identity. That we live in our fears, that we're a prisoner of our fears, that our fears determine how we function, that they take control of our mind as our mindset is a prisoner of our fears. And that's a 5th identity, a self. Here's a 6th one coming up. Sometimes with a collage of defense mechanisms. Our fears cause us to try to find some way, the turtle in a shell, the protective device. And we listen to people, and sometimes who we're listening to is not who they are, of love or a need to win or protecting themselves, or yes, it's protecting themselves. Let's go back to that one. Sometimes people are collage of protective devices, defense mechanisms. We're not talking to the person, we're talking to the facade, the mask they put on to protect themselves from people knowing who they really are. And then we come to another self in closing. I have to mention to you, by the way, maybe the most important self you've got is one you've not met yet, or the phenomenal potential within you, the DNA that you've inherited, the destiny that you're designed for. And you haven't even met that part of yourself. That maybe who you are most of all, like an iceberg, that who you think you are is above the surface. That's the self you know, but most of yourself is below the surface. You haven't even met yourself yet. Wow, what a self that is. And then one more I want to cover. How many have I listed? Around 9, I think, of different selves, literally. There's a self that talks to you. I'm asking you a question. I have come to believe that who we are and our mind are separate entities. I'm asking you a question. What is your relationship with your mind? Wow. Talk about emotional intelligence, relationship intelligence. This might be most critical. Your Socratic dialogue with yourself. What is that voice saying to you? What is the relationship with your mind? Is your mind encouraging you or discouraging you? Who's this voice in your mind that speaks to you? Good or bad, positive and negative? Where did it come from? What's its agenda? What bells are ringing in your head that cause you to salivate in a way that makes you more productive or more protective of yourself? Dennis, any closing thoughts? I run out of time.
No, I think you're doing great, Art. And I think also respect for Leilani's time with the keep moving or meeting forward. So you're doing great, Art.
Thank you. Good. Well, Lonnie, good to be with you and everyone. And we'll talk again and review maybe some future topics. Thank you.
Thank you so
Art.
much,
Thank
Art,
you.
for your words
Bye now.
of wisdom. Bye-bye. Take
Thank
care.
you.
But you guys don't leave yet. We still have to go. We
Yes.
still have more to cover. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Art. So,
Leilani, I just sent you a message in the chat because I just wanted to say thank everybody for joining for and listening to Art's book. Keep reading the book. I also want to talk about the share card real quickly because we need to place an order between now and next Wednesday, and I want to make sense of urgency and take action. The share card is $120 a year. I've already had corporate pay offer, and we're going to pay $60 to reduce it down to $60 a year per agent. And that covers everything, the markup, everything on it. And I will have then pay additional $30 year 60. So basically agent cost for 1 year would be $30. I'm just looking for commitment. They can pay later. We can work it out of a transaction. The only reason I'm charging 30, I believe we need to invest in ourselves to keep building our marketing business. But I want to get a sense of urgency to help Leilani. We're pushing a final push. Candidly, I haven't spent that much time on it because I was focusing on Mike Ferry training that I spent a lot of time, Jimmy Burgess, other speakers, but we have a week. So this is a great program to market. And if you haven't had it or if you use it, connect with your sphere of influence using a cell phone to connect with them that markets you. So I just want to share that real quickly. I don't want to hard sell anybody. I don't want you to buy something you don't want to use, but I think for $30 for the next year, it's a great program to use. So
thank you, Dennis. I am going to share a little bit of the video from
right, and that's fine to circle. I respect. In all fairness, Art did a great job, but I know it took a little bit more time than Leilani, who's a master at her agenda. So I appreciate all of you. I just want to make sure that we get this. going because it's a great marketing your sphere of influence to share card. It's a great for a lot of different ways. And I know Scott understands the value of it. So thank you, everybody. I do need to jump to another meeting. I apologize. I'd rather apologize for being too busy than not doing enough. So it's always for me to keep moving forward. So thank you, everybody. We'll be back in touch. So
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
$30.
You're welcome. It's I want to keep investing and help everybody market themselves. But have a great day, everybody, and thank you for being part of our team. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
Stacey.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Brian, you're up next. Tell us what's happening in the mortgage world.
All right. Yeah, guys. Rates is like the biggest topic that's going on right now. So what I wanted to talk about with you guys is, so there's a lot of different forecasters that people listen to, follow on social media and stuff. But one of the main ones, or one of the better ones actually, his name is Barry Habib. So every morning I get these kind of like updates and stuff like that from him, or kind of like, what to look out for the day. And one of the emails that I got on this topic was about the forecast for this year. And so a lot of people have been under this idea that we're going to go, like we've started this recession this year, and that that's the reason why the rates have gone up, and that all of that is contributing to it. And that's partially not true. But so here's what we're trying to get to. So what this whole like inflation, the bubble, recession topic is about is the government has stepped in to try to slow down inflation. And by doing that, they have raised the rates. And so when they do that, a lot of people are thinking that means that there's a recession. And that's not necessarily what's going on. So what's going on right now is that the economic data is pointing that recession is, inevitable, but it's looking more like it's going to happen in Q1 of 2023. What's going on right now is just a market adjustment. And I feel like last month it was more of an adjustment. I feel like now it's kind of settled off, and everyone's just kind of used to it now. And so, the market adjustment has kind of passed. But if I can read to you guys from the article that I got from Barry Habib. So stocks are higher and bonds are lower to start the week. Being that there are such turbulent times, Barry Habib had a conversation with Lacey Hunt, one of the biggest minds in the best economist in the market. So Lacey said he believes the U.S. economy is in a position it currently is because a combination of bad monetary and fiscal policy, which during 2020, 2021, we talked about that a lot, that the government was buying a lot of mortgage-backed securities. They were lowering the rate. That's what they mean by that part of it. And so specifically spending too much money on keeping monetary policy way too loose for way too long. So we had 2 years of straight loose monetary policy. So that's what caused to where we're at now. But Lacey agrees that a recession is inevitable. He thinks that it does not come until Q1 of 2023. He thinks that inflation will start to slow down by Q4, and that interest rates will come down as well. So I think that's a big deal because, everyone thinks that rates are going to go up and they're not going to come back down, and they're going to, just get out of control, which is not going to be the case. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because, there is light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So what the next part is that they're saying is that he believes that the comparison he thinks the comparisons get much tougher. Some of the supply chain issues slow down, and Fed rate hikes will start to take hold. So when you add all that into, how the mortgage-backed securities, follow it, he says he believes the 10-year will come back under 2% next year, and agrees that our analyst that if the Fed pauses later this year, that it can be a turning point for stock markets. And so that's kind of what we're talking about, that the rates, the inflation is going to slow down. There could be a beginning of a recession. Rates are going to come down a little bit. So, and the reason why I'm sharing with this with you guys is, so how do we, how do we get through that? How do we plan for that? How do we let our clients know about that? And so what we can do is, you can share that data with them if you want. But I wouldn't, only because, we don't want to confuse them. We want them to just make their job easy. Your job is to look at houses that you want to buy, and let's work on getting you into it. So I think that the best way that we can, help get through this whole thing is just having the conversation with our clients up front, letting them know that, there could be some trouble ahead, but, there may not. It just may be forecasting, or it could just be speculation. But we definitely want to make sure that we're having that conversation with them, because you don't want to get into a situation where they're looking for a home and then rates change, market changes, and then they're like, like left feeling like they didn't know that could happen. And as long as we're talking to them, having conversations with them, and letting them know that this market is moving, and we want to just do our best to stay in front of it, but there could be a chance where the market moves and we weren't in front of it, and we have to kind of just make the best of it. So that's pretty much what I had to share with you guys. Rates right now, let me pull that up. So rates right now, sorry, I just had it up.
While Brian's looking, any questions for him?
Okay. So 30-year fixed right now is at 5.5, and then that's for conventional. For FHA, we're at 4.875. Now that's kind of not really accurate. That's based on the mortgage-backed security website called Mortgage News Daily. That's an average rate. So, if someone has really good credit score, a really large down payment, they could possibly get somewhere like there, but that's not likely. So I would say, it would be like 5% to 5.5% is where the rates are at right now, just based on credit score and down payment. Those factors could change. But yeah, that's pretty much what I want to share with you guys. Maria, she wanted to try to be on the call today, but she's actually out of town on vacation. So she had really little reception, so she wasn't able to join us today. And I do apologize if I sound like like really hoarse, because I got COVID over last week, and I've been just kind of trying to get better. So I apologize if I don't sound the same. I feel like I sound really different, but thank you guys for all of your help, all of your, all opportunity to support you guys. And hopefully, we can continue to work together and work through this time of rates and recessions and all these things. So other than that, guys, I really appreciate everything. And so back to you, Leilani.
Thank you, Brian. You're a trooper for coming on anyway. But my question, I guess, if no one else has a question, is how, with interest rates rising and we're thinking recessions in the future, do we tell our buyers to wait until the interest rates go down? Because you said they might go down next year.
I wouldn't, give an opportunity for something that we don't know with certainty. I would tell them, if you have an opportunity to get into a house right now, take advantage of that, because that may not come around. We always tell our clients the best time to buy is right now, and that's really the truth, because a lot of times, we hear reports and we hear data, and we think that, okay, well, if we wait, it may be a better situation. And that's not always the case. So we want to just encourage our clients to, take advantage of what's in front of them now, because that opportunity may not be there, regardless of what rate or what's going on in the market.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Of course.
Okay. Well, you know what? Last week I put into the Luna Lista that Myra had closed a purchase recently. And one of the reasons I had her come speak to us today is because it was a difficult transaction. So Myra, do you want to share your experience and how you got through it?
Hello, everyone. I don't even know where, well, I guess I do know where to start. I started with this transaction, and I knew that it was a tenant involved. And at the time, they was asking for a 30-day rent back. And just knowing in this market, you don't want to do a 30-day rent back to a tenant. Had it been a seller, maybe it would have been a little bit different, but there was a tenant there. And so from the onset of the transaction, I always try to explain how I work with an agent and how we can make the transaction smooth. First of all, let me back up a little bit. I had to write the offer subject to physical inspection. So we wrote the offer without seeing the property. When we finally got an opportunity to see the property, the agent and the seller was there, and one of my buyers were there. So I got a chance to meet the seller and talk to the seller. And the conversation started a little bit, it was all about the seller. It was like the tenant, we got to be so careful about the tenant. And so I had a conversation with them. I says, I understand, and that I am sensitive to the situation, explained myself, but there's also a buyer involved as well. So we want to make both happy. So I threw out there, I says, I'm not sure if this is going to be a good idea to do a rent back for the tenant. And so the seller was saying, but we can't push this guy. He's been my tenant for a long time. I says, we're not gonna push him. We just want to let him know that we could possibly do a longer escrow, and and then it's a win-win for both. And I says, I tell you what, let's do this. Why don't you go back and talk to your tenant? I'll talk to my buyers, and we'll try to come to some meeting of the minds. And he says, okay, I will. So at that point, I felt like, I was in control of the transaction, and that the seller was willing to go and talk to this tenant. And finally, we got to that point, and they were okay with it. So with that being said, I had to go and write an addendum. We decided we would give them a 45-day escrow. Long story short, I don't want to go into too many details, but I offered them a 45-day escrow. I had to do an addendum. I had to clean up some of the things that was in the contract because the agent didn't do it. And I think where the problem started with the agent is that when I sent the addendum, and I always told her I would discuss things with her, but she wasn't one of those type of agents that received it. She took it as I was telling her what to do, but it was not that. That was never my intention. That was never my language. My language is if we know what the other side is doing and the expectation, then it runs smoothly. And just sending a document over there and they go, oh, what the heck is this? So I told her that, but she wasn't receiving it. So that was one of the struggles. And so when I wrote the addendum and I told her that it's on its way, and so she gets it and she goes, we don't need to do this. And I go, yes, we do. So, it was that type of thing because she didn't know. So I believe her hand was exposed, that I knew that she didn't really know what she was doing. But I would never hurt anyone's feelings, and I would never talk to an individual when you're not sure, or maybe she just didn't do it like that. Some agents don't go through the whole nine. Some agents just do just enough. I'm going to make sure that my client is okay, and also make sure that your client is covered, because it works that way. We have a fiduciary duty, a general fiduciary duty to both sides of the transaction. So anyway, long story short, I think that's where the problem started, because as we went into the transaction and we were texting each other, she said, and you don't tell me how to do my job. And I only made a statement that we must. I says, we must do this. And so she took it as I was telling her how to do her job. So I had to, after talking to Leilani, I just go, oh my God. And I was dealing with my blood pressure and it was just elevated up and down. And Leilani mentioned something to me. I was very upset at the time because I felt like she was attacking me for no reason. And then Leilani said, well, sometimes we just have to, she thinks that it was a control thing with her. And so we have to deal with them a certain way. So I started thinking about it and I said, you know what? I'm going to back away because my health is more important than to deal with this type of stuff. And she was lashing out at me and I wanted to lash out, but I knew there was not a way to run this transaction because if I lashed out, it was going to be a total breakdown. And it was not about me. It was about the client. It was about her seller. It was about my buyers. So
Myra, you got cut off. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Well, I'm going to finish Myra's story when she can get back on, but I would just commend Myra for having discipline not to lash out, because our tendency is we just don't want to hear the crap from the other people. Myra, here you are. I'm just kind of wrapping up your presentation and commending you for your discipline for yourself.
yes.
So
Well, the long story short, at the end of the day, I had to step back and just, you know, say, we're going to get through this and let her believe that she was in control. I still moved forward, did the job, sent the documents and everything. I mean, and it just.
I think you're stuck again, Myra. Myra, hello? Well, anyways, kudos to Myra for not letting her ego get in the way. And she just received the other agent's ego and let her think she was in control in some way. And one of the great things is Myra got a thank you letter from the other agent commending her on her professionalism. And she even apologized for her mouth being the way it was. So Myra, kudos to you for taking it in, you know. And the thing is, when you don't know, then you lash out. And it seems like that's what happened with that agent. So that's why I want to just say to everybody, it's important that you know the business because our egos get in the way. And when someone else tells us something, we might get offended by it. So the best way to deal with that is to know. And so I think Myra, because she's a professional, she did know, and she was able to just hold back from, you know, whatever you wanted to do. So thank you, Myra. And then I wanted to, you know, I had asked Ellen in the past to share her bad experience. And I thought, you know what, I need to step up and also share my bad experiences so that you know that we don't know everything. And sometimes we will make mistakes. And I just want to share this one with you because it happened to me recently and I got fearful. Because one thing is my neighbor is selling her home. We got 5 offers the first weekend. We rejected 2, took 3. And of the 3, there was one that's a family with 4 small children under the age of 5 and 1 baby at 1.5 weeks old. The second was a person who was taking care of her disabled sister. And the house was already set up for disability, you know, with hand railings in the hallway, safety bars in the showers. And my client is 92 years old. And the third one was from 2 doctors from Pasadena who were buying a home for their son and his fiance. Well, my client decided to take the least offer. It, you know, it was $829,900. We got the $865 from the doctors, $855 from the VA loan with 4 children, and an $850 from the disabled sister. So my client chose the disabled people, not because they were disabled, but she was so afraid of the children falling in the pool, and she thought that she did not want to be responsible for any accidents. And you know how we are as agents, sometimes we ask, you know, what made their decision? And so dumb me, said, well, my clients was afraid your clients' children might get hurt. Bad move, because the next time she called me, she said, Leilani, that is, I called car legal, and that's a fair housing discrimination thing. So let me show you the fair housing law. Let me get it up. See this? There are, oops. 22 areas where we might be discriminating. And one of them is familial status here under the second column, number 3. And, one of the things when we are, because it's my neighborhood and I know my neighbor and we all want someone that's going to be a good neighbor, I got so emotionally involved in it. And that is a danger. And fortunately, I spoke with our attorney and I said, do I need to follow up and find out, are they going to sue us or what have you, file a claim? And she goes, no, let's just wait and see. So I think maybe perhaps at the beginning, the agent was just so upset that her clients did not get it. But I was open to a claim because of this fair housing discrimination. And I just wanted to bring it to your attention because it could happen, even to the best of us who think we know everything, but which I know I don't know everything and things can happen. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I know you probably wouldn't do it, but when we are emotionally involved in a transaction, we could easily fall into that trap. And so what our attorney says, in the future, just choose the best offer, best and highest. However, I feel sorry for those families who are trying to purchase. So that's where we have to balance it out. And then the other agent from the 2 doctors said, well, what made their decision? The attorney said, just don't say anything. Just say they chose another offer. Your offer was rejected. So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay. And so because we're running out of time, I'll share the other story next time. And you know what? Dennis had talked about the share card. And I'm going to see if I can bring it up. And I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's a long video. But let's see if I can do this. And it's a marketing thing. So I just want to see if I can get this up here. So this is Mulhern Academy. So we need to register each time. But let me get it to the spot where we can show it.
Hear me.
Okay. And I'm just going to give you just a brief intro of what it is, and then it's
now for those of you who are not familiar with digital business cards, here's an example of 2 personal share cards. Mine personally, as well as Jacqueline cases. You all are familiar with Jacqueline, and Jacqueline was one of our first Berkshire Hathaway Home Services share card champions. Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind, please take your phone out and go ahead. Clients and prospects in 3 ways. We like to refer to them as tap, text, and scan. So let's go ahead and review. The tap refers to NFC technology, which stands for near field communication, which is basically the same thing as using Apple Pay or your contactless credit card. So each one of you will receive your own share card kit as part of your subscription, which includes a metal NFC enabled share card, as well as a phone tag. Now this allows you to hold your share card up to a prospect or client's phone and instantly open up your digital Berkshire Hathaway Home Services share card right on their phone.
Okay. I know that was just a very brief thing, but you can check it out in Mulhern Academy. And maybe Scott, since Dennis mentioned that you were interested in it, maybe you can share what made you interested.
Yeah, well, we've always, when you do open house or you meet people, you always want to get their contact information. And this, the whole pandemic situation and touchless has really opened up the opportunity to be able to get that in a non-threatening way. And it's the actual correct data. It's not like Mickey Mouse came to your open house and, you know, everybody's had Mickey Mouse come to the open house, and then you return the call and it's an incorrect number. This is the real data. And if they don't want to give it to you, that's their option at that time, but you don't make it an option. It's, you know, they just say not to, but when you say, you know, the seller requests, you know, you've got it and you can follow up. So that's just one element of it. Just being in constant ability to do quick communication with people, put it into, as we have in our CRMs, into categories, you know, your buyers that are, you know, urgent, and those that are on the back burner, you know, those that are just kicking the tires. And so you have your different categories, and you can do group shares. You know, you want to be their person of contact. And so it's and $30, come on, you know,
30
you can't go,
bucks
you
for the
cannot
year.
go wrong.
Yeah,
You
30
know,
bucks for the year.
Yeah.
It's a great marketing tool.
Less than 5 gallons of gas for the whole year.
That is true in today's market. But it also, what it does, it captures the other client, the prospect's contact information, but then it puts
Yes.
it into a database for you. And that is helpful as we continue to try to increase our database. And that is the key in our success, is expanding that database. And then it also provides links that it connects to your social media, like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and somehow it also does a campaign. So that, remember, if you look for shoes at Nordstrom's, all of a sudden you see shoes all over the place on your email or in your Facebook or on whatever. But it captures their information, but then it also promotes you to these different sites. So it's an opportunity, something to check out. But I think I wasn't going to pay $120 for the whole year, because I do want to save my money, but $30 for the whole year, it's opened my eyes a little bit more. It makes it a little more sweet. So take advantage, see if it works.
50 a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short.
And then let's see here. And then just to tell you, broker risk management, I just wanted to remind you, this is in our housekeeping. I do get emails and calls from agents who want me to ask our attorney to help them with their client's situation. I want to tell you, our attorney is for us and our company, not for our client. So our line that we usually say is, please consult your own qualified real estate attorney. Okay, but if you want to dig in a little further, check out the broker risk management website and type in a search in the weekly tips. And sometimes